Hi everyone, and welcome to the full moon vibes for this month here in June that we are wrapping up. June on almost like the half part of the year where we can finally put to rest, we can put it behind us. Luckily it hasn't been as eventful as last year, but still as with life itself. Things are always happening. It's coming up, then it's going down, and then it's being hidden, and then it gets suppressed, and then it comes up again. And June is asking you, especially June in this full moon that's coming up, it's asking you to wrap up and to let go of everything that has been surging, coming up over time, especially this year, this first part of the year. But also last year, I've noticed that you've probably seen that. I noticed in my own life, meant to say that, you keep having things coming up and you think, okay, I've dealt with it. And then you find a potential solution for it, and the solution feels so great that you feel that part where it's like putting the band-aid on the unresolved issues that you've had, and it creates that temporary comfort because it's not going deep enough to see what's the root cause of the wound that you have in the first place, because it's too painful. Sometimes it's too stressful. Sometimes you emotionally feel that you're so low on energy within you. It's like your emotional gas tank is so low that you can't deal with more. You don't want to go deeper. And so any potential solution that's coming forward feels like, oh my God, at least there's something, let me grab onto that. And we feel such a sense of emotional relief when we have that something to hold on to that we ignore. We try not to look at how painful the issue it is that we were dealing with, and the real true work that's needed to dive in, to dig in there, to tap into that, to finally resolve the reason why it's there in the first place. Now, what is June going to do? This full moon here, and what it's going to wrap up the first part of the year, and what this vibe is asking you to do is lay to rest something that you've been fighting with. Lay to rest that issue that you've been battling with, that you've been just trying to pretend that it's not there because it's just too uncomfortable, or maybe you're emotionally too tired to look at it. The problem is, if you don't look at it, if you don't tap into it, if you don't deal with it at some point, it's just going to stay there. I don't even have to tell you that. You know that. You know that is how the cycle of life works. It comes up and we find certain coping mechanisms that feels comfortable. Doesn't mean that we deal with it, but it feels comfortable. And so we plug it over and we ignore it. And we wait for it to kind of like subconsciously just to go away. Meaning we pretend that it's not there, right? And then we feel that it's not there. But just because you don't think about it doesn't mean that it's not there in the background. It doesn't mean that the emotional body doesn't remember that it's there. So even though cognitively you don't necessarily remember the issues that you were working so hard at trying to avoid, it's not there, your emotional body is constantly triggered by your environment, is constantly triggered by people and dynamics in your life. That's now triggering the suppressed emotions and sensations that you're feeling, that you're having. And so your body's feeling the distress and the discomfort of that. But you're trying to be the trooper, and you're trying to stay positive, and you're trying to keep moving forward. And you feel that sense of distortion starting to come into the body, because your body's like, I'm not okay. And here you are now with your mind going, la, 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 I'm okay, it's okay, And the more you try to kind of dive into that type of dynamic within yourself, the more you nurture it because you're too tired to deal with what it is that you need to deal with. The bigger that gap between your identity and your relationship with your body becomes. And you start to feel more discomfort. And of course, the more discomfort we feel, the more denial we dive into, the more we become numb within ourselves, the more coping mechanisms we try to dive into, the more stories we tell ourselves that everything is just going to be okay, when deep down we feel like, no, it's not going to be okay until I lay to rest with this certain issue it is that I have. And here's the thing. This is a moment where we are all of confrontation avoidant. We hate confrontation, right? It's an uncomfortable place to be in. Because confrontation means we have to establish boundaries. We have to figure where our limitations are. It means that we have to deal with potential rejection. We have to deal with everything that emotionally feels uncomfortable. And of course, we want to feel comfortable. We want to move towards what makes us feel comfortable. Now, sometimes what we're moving towards is not always necessarily the healthiest outcome, the healthiest solution. But at least it's something, because you've been dealing with such a pain point for so long that even the slightest bit of a solution can seem quite attractive and feel like it's the final solution when it's actually not. So what this full moon is coming in here and what's kind of like really putting into our faces is for us to deal with something once and for all and be done with it. Because like I said now, the fear of confrontation is going to come up, whether it's confrontation with yourself, whether it's confrontation with someone that's in your life, whether it's confrontation within a certain dynamic that you have with your environment. There's a fear of impeding confrontation that makes this so uncomfortable, that triggers all the memories of like, I know what it feels like to be in a place of confrontation, and it's uncomfortable, it's not nice. No, of course it's not great. But that resistance, right? That resistance that you're energizing to avoid the confrontation is costing you more over time than the actual confrontation itself when you're actually done with it. Because the resistance is ongoing. It doesn't stop. It keeps requiring energy from you. It keeps requiring you to behave in certain ways, to sabotage maybe relationships or making decisions or sabotaging your success. Because you're confrontation avoidant. Now, the best approach here, and I know you're not going to like this, but the best approach here is to just move towards the confrontation in a non-confrontational way. Confront the confrontation itself. Confront the resistance that you're feeling to potential confrontation. Because this belief, this value, this program is coming from that we have to fight for what we want. We have to fight for what we need. That it has to be a struggle before we can have it. Everything is a struggle. At the end of the day, it's not. What it is at the end of the day is your mindset and your attitude towards the perceived challenge that you're having. It's your attitude towards the perceived emotions that it's bringing up. And let's be honest, it's triggering so much, this full moon, so much that it's triggering a lot of past junk and baggage that you're projecting now into your present moment, and that becomes your future. So, take a deep breath and reassess where you really truly are at in your life. Really reassess where you're at. How is the discomfort that you're feeling really making you feel, of course, apart from discomfort? Is what you're feeling really truly something that is going on in the here and now within your current dynamics? Or is this also triggering old memories from the past? Assess first what it is that you really truly are dealing with. Because awareness of a problem is a problem half solved. And when you have clarity around that, then you can constructively move forward and try to start to resolve that. If this is something from the past, of course you know what you need to do now. Let's be done with this little gremlin from the past because it's causing a tremendous inconvenience. It keeps coming up. Then you need the resistance to pretend that it's not there. And this resistance is part of the very big problem. Because we use resistance as a boundary to not feel, to not deal with something, to not having to engage with something. But why not just realize where's your worth, where your values are, and where your real true boundaries needs to be, where it needs to be expressed? And confront the fear of loss, confront the fear of rejection if you did establish and communicate this boundary. Because what you're doing is, if we don't do that, we lock in a pattern and now a habit and now then a coping mechanism around establishing false boundaries by using resistance and by being conflict avoidant. Conflict avoidance and trying to be the peacekeeper is not a solution in itself. It's just not. Because you're pretending that an issue is not there, and what you're doing is you're delaying the confrontation, which is going to be inevitable. It's inevitable. But it's the mindset, it's your attitude, and it's the pain or the balance, the neutralness, whichever state it is that you're in. Whatever that is, what you bring into the confrontation. Meaning when you tackle this issue head on, I use the word confrontation not because in the sense of like, let's put on our boxing gloves and let's fight this out. This is not what I'm saying. Because at the end of the day, there is a lack of trust that we feel within ourselves to find a common middle ground with someone else. or maybe with your environment. But it's knowing and that lack of trust is knowing and understanding and not having that, actually more so that clear understanding within yourself, that clarity of who you are, what your beliefs are, what your values are, what will you tolerate, what will you not tolerate. That lack of clarity is what's causing the pain. Everything else, the confrontation, the resistance, the stress that you're in, the discomfort that you're in, that's just symptoms. Really, it's just symptoms. Because if you were clear in terms of what you would accept and not accept, would you really be in an uncomfortable place that you are in right now? If you're finding yourself there. You might be looking at certain areas in your life where you feel more uncomfortable than in others. Well, guys, that's the areas I'm talking about, right? The area where you are feeling the most uncomfortable in, where you are feeling the most stressed right now. It's important to have a look at that. I'm not saying you have to confront it and you have to dive in there. It's not about fighting your way through life. That's not what it's meant for, actually. We're programmed for that, but that's not needed. Our ancestor had to fight through life, but we don't need that biological programming anymore. Life has become actually quite convenient in that sense, and I'm sure that you can agree with me on that. When you look at how modernized our society is compared to what our ancestors had to deal with. Now, this full moon is asking you to finally let go of what you know you need to let go of so that you can make progress. So it begs the question, what fear in your life is holding you back from stepping into your greatness? Whether it's in your personal relationships, whether it's with success, whether it's within your environment dynamics, it can be even with your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your health, right? What do you feel has been that shadow, that dark cloud that's been following you everywhere, that you feel you can't shake off? What is that? Because the answer to that question, that is what this full moon is asking you to let go of. Now, you might have felt a lot of stress maybe in your neck area, aches and pain in your body, your whole body, but mostly quite strong in the neck and the shoulder area. Maybe you're struggling with headaches. All these pain points that's coming up, all the stress that is triggering, it's just showing you your emotional, which translates into psychosomatic, rigidity and resistance to addressing certain issues that's been causing you tremendous discomfort. Now, what it's also asking you to be looking at, where in your life do you feel that you have completely lost control? Where are you fighting for control? Where do you feel powerless? That you feel now you have to create confrontation to be heard, where you have to create confrontation to be listened to, and to feel like you can make an advancement. The full moon here is trying to show you that you don't have to fight for what you want anymore. And the only way to do that, really gracefully and quite successfully, is to become absolutely clear, first of all, what your boundaries are. Become crystal clear in what your limitations are. Because most of us don't actually really know that. By the time you get angry, by the time you get frustrated, by the time you feel, like just, you're in damage control mode now. You failed to recognize that limitation a long time ago. You missed it. You want to get to that fine line before you get to that point. Right? You should feel the onset of the discomfort coming before you are even finding yourself in that situation, or in that situation in itself. In that moment, you want to catch yourself so that you can actively, consciously correct it. There's no more powerful place than being in the present moment. Oh, tomorrow I'll deal with it. Oh, next week I will talk to the person then. No. That's a hypothetical that doesn't even exist yet. That's just a story that you're telling yourself. What is real is the here and now. And so the better we can start to understand our triggers, our emotions, and how we feel in the here and now, the better we can react, and our future self tomorrow will be tremendously thankful for. Because a big part of our day in the here and now and our day tomorrow, we're cleaning up from the day before, from our actions from then as well. So this full moon is asking you, live more consciously. But the only way that you're going to do that is if you're not living in a place of resistance to the past. And this is now to a past that's no longer real. But there's ongoing issues from the past that you haven't resolved. That still requires your energy and resistance to be projected into it so that it can stay in the past, right? But in theory, it's actually not, because you're triggering in your environment, your relationships keeps bringing it into the here and now, which keeps bringing it into the present moment. Makes it pretty real then. So, what I would love to do with you is to start the healing meditation. And we're going to be focusing on, let's look at what it is that we don't want to look at. Let's look at the resistance that we've been holding on to and where we have been losing mental, emotional, and physical energy with. Whether it's fear of rejection, whether it's fear of loss, whether it's fear of failure, whether it's a feeling or a fear of disconnecting from your sense of self. And that begs the question to know and understand and observe, where have you identified so much with people, circumstances, materialism perhaps, to the point where you don't know who you are without this. And therefore your dynamic with it, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, but in this case of course unhealthy, is so great that you can't see yourself beyond that dynamic. And therefore holding on to it and resisting change, resisting healing, is much more emotionally comfortable and attractive. Even though in the long term, it would be the absolute best thing that you ever could have done for yourself. What I would like you to do with me right now is to take a nice deep breath. I invite you now to sit down or lie down in any way that you feel is comfortable for you. Allowing a beautiful light, any color of your choice, now to flow down from your head, down your body, your arms, your upper, your chest, your back, down your legs, out your face. Allowing that beautiful light to rinse out, flush out, and release stress that you've been feeling, that you've been holding on to. And also just releasing other people's stress that you might have taken on, that have been causing you perhaps emotional, physical discomfort. Allowing that light to flow through every single cell in your body. Feeling the surface beneath you. And I invite you now to become aware of where in your body might you be feeling the stress or the charge or tension associated with resistance. And this can be resistance to change, resistance to letting go of something that you might feel that you're not ready to let go. But it begs the question, what is it that you're really not ready for? Normally the answer to that would be is who you really truly are and can be without the conflict and challenges that you have in your life. And what is it that's standing between you and that peaceful outcome? What is it in your life that needs to give way or give you more space so that you can embrace more of who you are? What you might also notice here is that even though you might not have clear answers right now, that is okay. However, there is a part of you that perhaps can relate to resistance, to fear of confrontation. It's becoming aware of where in your body do you feel that stress? Where's the starting point of that? And when you have it, I invite you now to just really connect to it. Allow your full focus and awareness to drop down into that area. And as it's dropping down there into that area, I invite you now to observe and be playful here. Whose face or voice is coming forward that you might know? If you're not observing someone there, then that is okay. And if you are, I invite you to observe, perhaps, are you sharing this resistance with that person? Or could it be that this is the person that you're in a place of conflict or resistance to? And as you're observing that part, I invite you now to allow that beautiful light of yours to flow from your head, down your body, into this area, focusing this beautiful healing light into that area. Resolving and dissolving that old tension, that rigidity, that resistance. Connecting to that conflict. Resolving and dissolving. And I invite you to allow that resistance to be there. Allow the conflict to be there. Feeling how that resistance, that conflict, the stress of that, allowing it just to flow through you. Surrender to it. Let it be there. Let it flow through you and out of you. Knowing and understanding and feeling that the more that you energize letting go of resisting it, the more it starts to dissipate, becoming weaker and weaker, lighter and lighter, and expanding in and throughout your body and out your face. And just holding that visualization. And and allowing yourself to continue to let go of just resistance and let it be. Resolving and dissolving. Also acknowledging the difference between resistance and feeling safe. Acknowledging that part of you that perhaps started to identify with resistance and safety. And for you now to know and understand and realize that you can be and feel safe by consciously creating that space for yourself. Through words, through actions, through expressing boundaries with ease and with grace. Connecting to that part of you that perhaps feel that you have to fight for your boundaries. And for you now to reclaim your birthright. And knowing that you can just have your boundaries. That this is a God-given right that you were born with. And that your past programming and upbringing perhaps programmed you in making you feel that you have to ask for it or work for it or sacrifice. I invite you to realize that you no longer have to accept these old programs anymore. Consciously creating what it is that you want without needing confrontation and resistance. I call my power back from resistance. I call my power back from confrontational programs. I call my power back from fear of change. Also acknowledging the difference between your identity and your mother's resistance. Any part of her resistance that you inherited. Allowing that now to be released. Acknowledging the difference between your identity and your father's resistance. Allowing any part of that that you perhaps inherited now to be released. Just even feeling the beautiful light of that full moon just flowing through every single cell in your body. Releasing all these old memories that no longer belongs to you. And now together we're going to be breathing the alpha brainwave state, and we'll be breathing in the mouth and out the nose 13 times. And the last breath, I'm going to ask you to hold it for as long as you can. When you're ready, let's start. Breathing in the mouth, out the nose, 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 in the mouth, out the nose. Nice deep breaths. In the mouth, out the nose. 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 Pick up the pace. In the mouth, out the nose. In the mouth, out the nose. Last deep breath and hold. Hold your breath for as long as you can. Just allowing yourself to drop into that dizziness, which is normal. Feeling how your body is just rearranging itself emotionally, physically, and psychologically. Just really allowing yourself to move into that inner silence, that balance that's coming forward. And also just we're going to be doing positive affirmations together. I call my power back from times when I feared confrontation. I call my power back from times when I feared resistance. I call my power back from the times when I used resistance as boundaries. I call my power back from people who made me doubt myself. I call my power back from people who made me feel unappreciated. I call my power back from old childhood programming that no longer serves me. I call my power back. I call my power back. I call my power back. Just taking a nice deep breath with me again. allowing that beautiful light to flow from your head, down your body, out your feet, back into the earth, feeling yourself, anchoring back into your body with ease and with grace. Just taking a nice deep breath again. And you can wiggle your toes and your hands and give yourselves a nice big stretch. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes and welcome back. I would like to leave you with this last message that sometimes being in a difficult situation is challenging, but not necessarily more challenging than the actions that you can take that can actually set you free on a brand new, more peaceful path. Guys, and until next time, be the light that you are.